Some cruise ships are tall, some are wide. But when it comes to cruising on a river like the Rhone, it's all about being low and long. Today on Dream Cruises, we'll be taking part in a delightful trip up the historic Rhone River in France. From Martigues on the Mediterranean to Chalon-sur-Saône on board the fabulous riverboat Van Gogh. We'll be stopping along the way to visit beautiful towns like Avignon, Lyon, Port Saint-Louis, Viviers, and more. We'll explore gorgeous old churches and castles, stroll in the idyllic countryside, and lose ourselves in twisting medieval streets as we go. Each night, we'll return to our sleek riverboat for sumptuous meals, some lighthearted entertainment, and a comfortable rest before doing it all again at the next port of call. Are you ready? It's nearly time to cast off on another dream cruise. Our river cruise up the Rhone begins in Martigues, on the Mediterranean Sea between Marseille and Montpellier. Here in the City of Yachts, we find the Van Gogh Riverboat, which will be our floating home for the better part of the next week. The two-deck ship measures 110 meters in length, but only 11.4 meters in beam, and has a capacity of 158 passengers in 78 cabins. This smallest ship makes for a very intimate cruising experience, and we're warmly welcomed by the enthusiastic crew, who introduce themselves before sharing cocktails in the ship's lounge. We're also introduced to the chef, who will be spoiling us on our voyage. He's prepared a lovely farmer's terrine with carrot and celery salad, followed by stuffed chicken breast with tagliatelle and delicious apricot meringue for dessert. After dinner, we retire to our cabins early. We're scheduled to cast off at 4 a.m. for the 3.5-hour trip to Port Saint-Louis. Cruising the Rhone on board the Van Gogh represents very good value for the money. And the cabins, though not sprawlingly large, are efficiently laid out and very comfortable. There are cabins available with either 2 twin or 1 double bed. And every cabin has ample storage, large windows above the waterline, and a private bathroom. You'll also find a safe for your valuables, a satellite television, radio, and hairdryer. We're all sound asleep in our beds as the Van Gogh slips out of port in Martigues to begin our cruise up the historic Rhone River. By breakfast time the next morning, we're already in harbor, ready to begin an exciting day. Breakfast on board is a pleasant affair. We have the chance to get to know a few of our shipmates as we enjoy a morning coffee. There is a selection of pastries, cold meats and cheeses, cereal, fruit and yogurt. A real continental breakfast as we begin our visit to the European continent. Once we're all fueled up, we slip into some comfortable walking shoes and gather at the dock for our shore excursion to the Camargue region. While we're exploring by land, the riverboat will continue on her way. And we'll meet up again in Arles at around noon. A short coach ride from the river takes us on to the Camargue, the largest river delta in Western Europe. This wetland is bordered by two arms of the Rhone as it empties into the Mediterranean Sea. It's a vast area of salty lagoons separated from the sea by sandbars and flanked by reed-filled marshes and wetlands. The area supports over 400 species of birds, including the greater flamingo, which ranges from Africa, across Europe, and into Asia. Perhaps the most famous animal residents of the Camargue Delta region are the Camargue horses. These handsome white horses are thought to be one of the oldest horse breeds on Earth and have traditionally been used as mounts for the resident Camargue guardians, who used them to herd black bulls, which are raised here and exported to Spain for bullfights. Unfortunately, for those of us who fell head over heels in love with the horses, they may be a little large to try and smuggle back on board. So we leave them in their gorgeous delta and continue on to the delightful village of Saintes-Maries-de-la-Mer. Named for three Saint Marys, Mary Magdalene, Mary Salome, and Mary Jacob, Saintes-Maries-de-la-Mer is located on the Rhone Delta, just east of the mouth of the Petit Rhone distributary. The village is known for its annual pilgrimage of gypsies who come to celebrate Saint Sarah, thought to be the Egyptian servant of the Three Marys. Beautiful religious artifacts abound in the small coastal town. There's a fabulous fortified church built in the 6th century, with a statue of Saint Sarah in the crypt. The photogenic little village also has statues dedicated to the iconic white Camargue horses and the guardians who ride them as they tend their herd of bulls. At midday, we return to the Van Gogh, waiting for us in harbor in Arles, about a half-hour by coach from Saintes-Maries-de-la-Mer. We've got a couple of hours here on board to enjoy some lunch and a little time out of the sun before our next excursion today. Van Gogh's chef has prepared a delicious meal for us once again. The style of the meals on board is essentially modern French cuisine, with fresh ingredients and gorgeous presentation. As always, wine and beer are included with lunch and dinner on board, and the fabulous meal will give us energy to explore historic Arles. We're on board the Riverboat Van Gogh for a cruise up the River Rhone into the heart of the historic south of France. After enjoying lunch on board in Arles, it's time to head back out into the beautiful sunshine to explore this amazing city a little. Arles embodies 2 millennia of history with its astoundingly well-preserved monuments and buildings. Once part of the Roman Empire, the area is now understandably one of the most popular tourist destinations in Europe. Several famous artists, among them Vincent van Gogh, for whom our riverboat is named, spent time in this picturesque river town. Van Gogh was amazingly prolific during his stay, creating nearly 200 canvases in just over a year. With its Roman ruins and many museums, Arles is easy to explore on foot, as the city has many zones reserved for pedestrian use only. Perhaps the grandest remnant of Roman times in Arles is the beautifully preserved arena, where gladiators once did battle with wild beasts. Despite its advanced years, the Roman arena is still working, hosting concerts and bullfights. During medieval times, the arena was used as a small fortified town, with 100 dwellings packed inside its protective walls. The 3 towers on the structure remain, having been added at this time. We have some free time to explore this museum of a city in the warm, soft light that so inspired Van Gogh before returning to our riverboat to continue our voyage tonight. From Arles, it's a 3.5-hour cruise up the Rhone to Avignon. Plenty of time to enjoy our supper and another glass or two of wine. The menu tonight includes niçoise salad, sautéed veal provençal, and frozen nougat for dessert. Arriving in the ancient city of Avignon by the river at night makes for a romantic and memorable moment in our cruise. With over 30 centuries of history, Avignon is today a cultural center that is certain to endure for many more. Through the dark, we see the famed Palace of the Popes, opened in 1364. As we admire the riverbanks of Avignon, we get a good look at the Saint Benezet Bridge, better known by the name Le Pont d'Avignon, as popularized by the well-known children's song. The bridge was built between 1177 and 1185 and held a great strategic importance as the only fixed river crossing between Lyon and the Mediterranean. There is limited space at the small port of Avignon, and as is the practice, we pull up side by side with another riverboat for the evening. Parking the more than 100-meter-long vehicle is a delicate affair, but our crew soon has us safely moored for the night. That evening in the ship's lounge, we are joined by a gypsy group for a performance of spirited music. After the show, most of our shipmates choose to turn in early. We've got an 8:30 excursion to explore Avignon in the morning. We're on the Rhone River in the south of France on a delightful yet inexpensive cruise to visit some of the most interesting and historic places along this famed waterway. Our long and low riverboat arrived in Avignon last night, and we're up early for breakfast, excited to explore this ancient religious capital. Our spot at the harbor puts us right in the heart of the city. From the docks, we can see the famous Pont d'Avignon, spanning the Rhone as it has since the 12th century. That is to say, partially spanning the Rhone. In fact, only 4 of the original 22 arches of the bridge remain, having lost much of its original structure in a terrible flood in 1669. The bridge had been damaged and repaired many times before then as well. It was even partially demolished during the Siege of Avignon by Louis VIII in 1226. As we tied up side by side with another riverboat last night, we are connected by a gangplank and walk from one vessel to the other before setting foot on shore to begin our excursion into historic Avignon. One of the few cities in France to still have its ramparts of protective walls, Avignon was once the center of the medieval Western world, in no small part due to its role as the city of the popes. In the 14th century, Pope Clément V chose Avignon as his permanent residence. That same century, the Palais des Papes, or the Pope's Palace, was built and still stands proudly over Avignon to this day. The Palais des Papes is one of the most visited national heritage sites in all of France, attracting some 650,000 visitors each year. The huge palais is one of the largest surviving medieval buildings in all of Europe. The building's main courtyard has been used during Avignon's annual theater festival since 1947. The festival is an international affair that takes place each July. You'll find several museums housing extensive collections of all kinds. There are quiet back streets with fantastic bakeries and shops, and busy open squares lined with trees and fabulously preserved historic buildings. Although the popes are long gone from Avignon, the city continues to be an interesting and vibrant center for culture and the arts, as increasing numbers of painters and other artists are making the medieval city their home. At around midday, we say au revoir to Avignon and return to our riverboat. We untie from the craft we shared a mooring with last night and head out onto the river. This afternoon, we'll be heading the 60 or so kilometers upriver to Viviers, where we'll stop for the night. This afternoon's navigation will give us a chance to really experience what cruising the Rhone is all about. Unlike the cruise ships built for sailing in open ocean conditions, the Van Gogh is expressly made for navigating quiet, narrow waterways and won't ever have to face high seas or rogue waves during her outings. But river cruising has its own set of peculiarities that keep the expert crew busy. Cruising the Rhone means that our vessel is always very close to obstacles like the shore or other watercraft. There is no room to stray even a few meters off the route, so constant vigilance is a must. The Rhone is also crossed at several locations along its length by low bridges. To deal with these obstructions, riverboats are built long and low, while remaining narrow enough to fit through tight spaces as well. The upper deck of the Van Gogh is fitted with some ingenious equipment to make slipping under the low bridges possible, while still maximizing usable space on board. The sunshade that shelters part of the upper deck is transformed by lowering just enough to pass under the bridges, while remaining just high enough to sit under in a deck chair and enjoy the view. Similarly, the top deck control house can be completely retracted. And the masts and flag standards are all easily collapsed and then returned to full height, depending on clearance constraints. We'll continue on up the Rhone on our riverboat cruise. We're in the south of France, heading up the historic and romantic Rhone River, all the way from Martigues on the Mediterranean to Chalon in the heart of the country. This afternoon, we're enjoying a gorgeous summer day as we navigate the gently twisting Rhone between Avignon and Viviers. Our riverboat is specially built for this waterway, and the voyage is smooth and pleasant, with the gorgeous French countryside rolling peacefully past as we enjoy the fresh air on deck. A little further along, we glide under the Robinet suspension bridge, built in 1847. The bridge crosses the Donzère-Mondragon Canal, a deviation of the Rhone that passes the impressive Défilé des Donzères cliffs. The 3-kilometer gorge created by the cliffs is considered to be the northern edge of the Mediterranean climate region of the south of France. Traditionally, this marked the northernmost reach of France's olive groves. Although in recent years, due to global warming, this edge seems to be moving northward. As we continue on our cruise and put more and more distance between us and the Mediterranean coast, we are slowly gaining altitude. To help us climb, there are 12 locks on the Rhone as it runs its length between Lyon and the sea, a couple of which we'll be passing through today. Earlier, we learned why our riverboat sits so low to the water as we passed under bridges on our journey. And as we enter the locks just north of Avignon, we can see why the Van Gogh was built as narrow as she is. The 11.4-meter beam, or width of the ship, is just narrow enough to squeak into the locks, and our crew slips her into position with inches to spare on each side. Once the ship is in position between the two sets of watertight doors, the lock is filled and we rise, along with the water level, to the height of the river on the other side of the structure. South of Viviers, we come upon the impressive Donzère-Mondragon hydroelectric dam and locks. This massive power-generating project was completed in 1952 and is on the list of historic monuments in France. Each of the locks is built slightly different to accommodate the individual height differentials and the topography of the Rhone. Our beautiful afternoon's cruise up the Rhone comes to an end as we arrive in Viviers for the evening. We'll tie up here for the night and continue on our way tomorrow. Riverboats on the Rhone have many locations along the way where they can stop over, and the Van Gogh is ready for all kinds of different facilities. The ship carries its own aluminum gangway that is quickly deployed with the help of a small crane on board. The gangway is swung out into position, creating a safe and stable link between our craft and the shore. When it's time to move on, the entire structure comes apart in seconds and is stowed on deck, ready for our next stop. While the crew on deck is securing the ship in harbor, the kitchen staff have been hard at work preparing another lovely supper for us. The menu tonight includes a beetroot and cucumber salad, with tender slices of beef and vegetables. After supper, we head to Van Gogh's Bar and Lounge for a cocktail. Each night, there is a featured drink, and tonight, it's sangria, only €3. The wine and beer are included with dinner and lunch, but we pay for our cocktails while on board with the help of these handy cash cards. No need to carry money or change when the server can simply check off the amounts we spend as we enjoy our evening. The entertainment tonight is always a popular event on board, the Crew Variety Show. Although they may not be ready to take the stage professionally anytime soon, the talented staff dress up and put together a hilarious night of comedy and dancing that gets the whole crowd clapping their hands. For some of the skits, unsuspecting audience members are brought in on the fun, and everyone involved has a wonderful evening. The smaller size of our riverboat, when compared to huge ocean liners, makes for a very intimate experience. And watching our crew have so much fun makes us all feel like part of a big family on board. we'll continue our Rhone River cruise. We're in the south of France, cruising up the fantastic, historic Rhone River on board the riverboat Van Gogh. We're up bright and early on the morning of our 4th day on board. There's an excursion planned to visit the nearby gorges of the Ardèche. We've seen some very old places on our cruise so far, but the gorges of the Ardèche River were inhabited back as far as 35,000 years ago. The Ardèche River is a tributary of the Rhone that runs some 125 kilometers from its source to its confluence on the right bank. The ancient valley cut by the Ardèche is a beautiful scenic area that is very popular with canoeists and kayakers who enjoy an easy paddle down the quiet river through some of the most spectacular scenery anywhere in Europe. The most famous landmark along the way is the eye-popping natural arch bridge that rises some 60 meters above the river. The limestone cliffs that soar to heights of 300 meters are pocked with natural caves that were used by early man. This is the location of the Chauvet Cave, which contains some of the earliest known cave paintings anywhere. Amazingly, these beautifully rendered images on the limestone walls of a cave in the cliffs lay undiscovered until 1994. Along with the paintings, other evidence of human activity have been unearthed, with flint knives and butchered animal bones scattered in the large cave. To preserve the astounding find, the Chauvet Cave has been sealed since its discovery to avoid the deterioration of the cave paintings, such as occurred in other locations which permitted visitors. While we were taking in the delightful views at the Ardèche Gorges, our riverboat has carried up on stream a little further, and we join up with her again in the town of Voulte-sur-Rhône. We find our ship once again in harbor next to another long and slender craft. So we board our own vessel by making a quick pass through the neighboring boat. The weather today has been a little spotty, with rain threatening on and off. So we're happy to be back on board just in time for a nice light lunch of mixed salads and, of course, complimentary wine and beer. After lunch, the sky is still threatening rain, but the timing isn't a problem. We're scheduled for a 4-hour voyage further up the Rhone today. We hope to make it the 35 or so kilometers to Tain-l'Hermitage by 5:30 this afternoon. Once again, the route will include a couple of locks to help us climb as we head further inland. First, just north of La Voulte, we come upon the Beauchastel locks. There's a small power station here that was completed and put online in 1964. The station provides over 1 billion kilowatt-hours a year, proving that the Rhone produces much more than wonderful vacation memories. There's only one set of locks here, so we wait for some downstream traffic to pass through before we take our turn. Climbing the 11.8-meter lock before continuing on our way upriver. Even with the odd raindrop falling, it's a lovely afternoon's cruise as our long riverboat gently slips up the Rhone. The sensation on board is smooth and steady, with almost no feeling of motion at all. The calm river, combined with the long, low construction of the riverboats, makes for a pleasant and comfortable trip. Next, about halfway through our afternoon's voyage, we come to the Bourg-les-Valences locks and power station. This dam and generator station is equipped with 6 turbines that turn the flow of water in the Rhone into usable power for industry and homes in the area. Despite the best attempts by the sun to break through the clouds and shine for us this afternoon, we arrive in Tain-l'Hermitage in a light rain. Our crew keeps on smiling, however, and by supper time, the skies have cleared, and we can admire the stepped vineyards on the hills surrounding the town of less than 6,000 residents. Chocolate lovers in the group will be sure to make a quick run into town to pick up some Valrhona chocolate, known for its fine taste and quality the world over. Tain-l'Hermitage is also a great place to pick up a bottle or two of Côte du Rhône wine. On board, the wine is flowing once more as we sit for a delicious supper of quiche, followed by veal with chanterelle mushrooms and garlic potatoes. We'll continue our fabulous Rhone cruise. We're continuing a dream cruise up the Rhone River in the south of France. We went to sleep in Tain-l'Hermitage last night, but this morning we woke up in Vienne. Our riverboat slipped out of port at 2 in the morning, and by 7:30 this morning, we had a whole new city to explore right outside our cabin windows. Vienne was a settlement here on the banks of the Rhone, even before the arrival of the Romans in this part of the world. It was Julius Caesar who ordered the takeover and transformation of this once Gallic city into a Roman colony in 47 BC. The Gauls, who were driven out of Vienne, went on to form what is today Lyon, some 30 kilometers to the north. Later, the city became an important center in Christianity, with records of faithful here since 177. We gather on the docks with our guide for a walk around town, while the crew tend to our riverboat in the harbor. If you think washing the family car on a Sunday morning is a chore, just be thankful your vehicle isn't over 100 meters long, like the Van Gogh. The magnificent, if somewhat scarred, Vienne Cathedral stands on the same spot it has occupied since the 4th century. Although the construction of the present building, begun in 1052, removed all remnants of earlier churches. It was consecrated by Pope Innocent IV in the name of Saint Maurice on the 20th of April, 1251. Additions, including the ornate facade, continued until the 16th century. The beautiful old building has seen plenty of hard times over the years as well. In 1562, the Argonauts destroyed all the cathedral's windows and most of the sculptures on the facade. Today, the facade is left with empty bays where the statues once stood, and even the stone body of a decapitated saint to remind visitors of the turmoil that was witnessed by the cathedral. The stained glass has been replaced, and one can see more modern panels now illuminating the interior, along with more traditional depictions of holy figures. During the French Revolution, the structure served as hay storage and barracks. Later, the church was returned to being a house of worship in 1802. But 2 cloisters and 3 chapels were demolished as the area was renovated. And in 1869, the cathedral survived one final insult, when the North Tower fell victim to fire. After an early start visiting Vienne, it's time to continue on upriver to our next destination, Lyon. We're scheduled to arrive in Lyon at 2 this afternoon. Just enough time to enjoy a relaxed lunch in the Van Gogh's dining room. The chef has outdone himself once again, serving us a delightful smoked salmon and cream cheese roll, followed by savory roast pork with vegetables and lovely French cheese for dessert. By the time we've finished lunch and changed into some comfortable shoes for another excursion, we've arrived in Lyon. Although traces of humans residing here date back some 14,000 years, there is no evidence of a permanent settlement until the time of the Romans. Lyon was founded in 43 BC by the governor of Gaul, Lucius Plancus, and stood as the capital of Gaul for over 300 years. The city grew, and by the Middle Ages had developed over both banks of the Rhone River, here at its confluence with the Rhone. We begin our visit to Lyon in the huge Place Bellecour, the largest square of its kind in all of Europe. In the center of the giant open space is the 1825 Le Maux sculpture of Louis XIV on horseback. Beneath Louis is a statue of a figure representing the Rhone, reclining across the back of a lion. The wide open space of Place Bellecour is used for open-air concerts in pleasant weather. And when it turns cold, a skating rink is installed for the amusement of the Lyonnais. From all over Lyon, one can see the astounding Notre-Dame de Fourvière Basilica perched overlooking the city. The basilica was built between 1872 and 1884 and is dedicated to the Virgin Mary. It's believed Mary saved the city from the cholera epidemic of 1823. And again when Prussian forces were moving south towards Lyon, having taken Paris in 1870, it was the Virgin who is said to have halted their advance and turned them to retreat. The basilica and its Museum of Sacred Art receive some 2 million visitors each year. And the view from Fourvière Hill over Lyon is not to be missed. While pilgrims used to climb to the basilica on foot, visitors today can use the charming funicular train that climbs and descends the 30-degree incline with ease. Lyon is a delight to visit on foot, especially the Old Town and Rue Saint-Jean. Narrow cobblestone streets and gorgeous old buildings are all beautifully maintained and hold numerous treasures for visitors to discover. There are lovely cafes and bistros with tables set up outside, and twisting interconnected alleys and courtyards to explore. Every day of the week except Mondays, you'll find an open-air market open somewhere in Lyon. Whether you come to buy a few things or simply to stroll and take in the atmosphere, the markets are a wonderful way to get the feeling of a city in a short time. And if you feel like an impromptu picnic while you're here, you'll find everything you need in one spot. Even with its wealth of history, Lyon is a modern city as well. There's a public transit system, including a subway with 42 stations, and a magnificent courthouse, where in 1987, Klaus Barbie was sentenced to life in prison for crimes against humanity. We'll continue our cruise up the Rhone and arrive in our final destination, near the capital of Burgundy wine. We're back on board for the conclusion of our cruise up the Rhone in the south of France. After a visit to historic Lyon today, we're breaking off from the Rhone and continuing north up the Saône River towards Trevoux, where we'll stop for the night. We begin the 3-hour cruise at 9 in the evening, just as the sun is setting. The view of Lyon from the water at night is absolutely enchanting. We head up to the Van Gogh's top deck with a cocktail and sit in the cool night air as the darkened city glides past. The basilica is lit up like a beacon on the hill, as if to call out to the faithful. Down at river level, we slip under illuminated bridges crossing the still water. It's a unique perspective on historic Lyon, seeing it from the river that made this such an important strategic location for centuries. Our riverboat will cruise on through the evening as we sleep, and then start underway again at 7 the next morning for the last leg of our journey. A little after midday, we arrive in Tournus. From here, we'll continue north by coach to the city of Beaune, the hub of the Burgundy wine region. This is one of the key French wine regions, and the annual wine auction held here at the Hospice de Beaune is the largest in all France. The Hospice itself is a breathtaking historical building that was originally constructed as a hospital and refuge for the poor by Duke Philip the Good in 1443. The buildings of the Hospice de Beaune are absolute architectural masterpieces. A glazed tile polychrome roof with intricate dormers and attic windows tops the ornate and detailed structures. Finely crafted wood and ironwork abounds, surrounding the central cobblestone courtyard. A charity wine auction has been held here since 1851 during a 3-day festival in November called Les Trois Glorieuses. A non-profit organization called the Domain of the Hospice de Beaune owns some 150 acres of top-notch vineyard land, and hundreds of barrels of wine are auctioned off each year, many of them above expected market value. This link between wine producing and philanthropy is an important part of the economic and cultural life of the Burgundy region. Our visit to Beaune complete, we return to the Van Gogh for a 2 p.m. departure to the final port on our cruise, Chalon-sur-Saône. That night, the crew hosts a gala evening in the dining room. We gather to enjoy another delicious meal prepared by our chef, and of course, a glass or two of French wine to celebrate a delightful week cruising through the south of France. We've come hundreds of kilometers from the Mediterranean and visited fabulous historic towns all along the way. The crew of the Van Gogh has seen to it that we've enjoyed every minute of our journey. As we raise a glass to toast the end of this adventure, some of us are already discussing our next possible destinations as we prepare to embark on another dream cruise.